remember, we're 10 years removed from the ban. And so, 66 other people have doping offenses here, 4 in that particular race. I understand why it's only Justin Gatlin being talked about. He's the only one who's a viable threat to Usain Bolt. I get that. He's the people's champion. Justin has been carrying the weight of all of this resentment for him, this vile ugliness that we read about from people who have no clue who he is. And the only way he felt that he could endure was if he were to win. He knew people wouldn't like him, but that would make him feel better that he won. And when he lost, it was like everybody got enjoyment out of that. There's footage of people in the BBC celebrating. That's not objective, I like Steve Cram, saving the sport and all. I mean, these kind of comments, we're better than that. We have to be responsible reporters. Behind closed doors, feel the way you want to feel. But when you have millions of people hanging on every word you say, that could affect another man's life, in particular his mother's life, that's when I started to worry, and I was saddened. I'm just really saddened. I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending Justin Gatlin. It's not even about Justin Gatlin to me. It's about who are we? If our sport can't forgive these young men and women, why do you let them back in the sport? And if you're not going to protect them when you let them back in the sport, are you really letting them back into the sport? To me, it's personal. The tone of it is very personal. Steve Cram's comments, very personal.
Do you see this as a watershed moment in his career, and the way he is not only perceived by the media, certainly in Britain, but how he will be addressed going forward?
Things have a way of backfiring on people, because sometimes you just don't want to see people berate somebody. And I told him, I said, my wife told me, she wrote, good can come out of this loss. You may not see it right now. And what we're seeing is, I'm here talking to you. I have other people who've talked to me and seen the interview on NBC that he did after the race, and it humanized him. And people start to become compassionate, like, okay, enough already. Just let the guy run.
I think a lot of what we saw in that interview there, they feel victimized, I think is probably the phrase that's going around. And he's come out and decided to kind of portray Justin as a victim in all of this. I tried to explain to Ronaldo, that comment I made was not about Justin Gatlin. It was about the whole sport needed its hero to win. And whatever he thinks that Justin Gatlin deserves now for coming back, the one thing he probably can never be is a hero. He has a right to run according to the rules, of course he does. He has no right for people to like him. He has no right for people to completely forgive him either, because the sport is severely damaged. And the point he made about he should widen that out, because I can tell you that the whole of this tribune here, including 5 Live and ourselves, is full of athletes, former athletes. Brendan Foster, Steve Backley, Alison Kirbishley, Darren Campbell. I could go along all of the other rows here as well. In front of me, Tim Hutchings, Catherine Merry is here, Jane Fleming from Australia. Yes, they're on their feet, because they care about the sport and they know the damage that's been done to the sport. And it wasn't aimed at Justin Gatlin. It was what it represented, I think, and the relief, perhaps, that people felt. Not personal. I have to say that I think Justin Gatlin, over the years, has not done himself any favours. I've been to many press conferences, because Renaldo claimed that this is all new and things. I've been to many press conferences at Diamond Leagues, etc., where he hasn't done himself any favours. I've never heard him apologise, certainly not to the sport or those of us who work in the sport. I've heard him say he's kind of made mistakes, but I think he said his biggest mistake was he chose the wrong physiotherapist. There's been very little contrition, I think I said in the commentary leading up to it. Bolt is popular because of his lack of arrogance. Gatlin has been unpopular because of his lack of contrition. So nobody wants to see people vilified, and obviously, his mum is in the same hotel as us. I actually was in the same lift as her the other day, and she probably didn't realise. No, she didn't realise. She hasn't got a clue who I am. But he said about opinions, but opinions are opinions. And then he said, we have to be neutral. I don't think we do. I think we have to give strong opinions because we need to make some changes in this sport. And that part of those changes is about whether or not people like Gatlin deserve a place to come back. And of course, those are the issues that I'm sure are going to be debated going forward.
Steve couldn't have put it much better. I mean, the issue from Renaldo's standpoint, I know Renaldo very, very well. And the issue is that what Renaldo doesn't understand is that Justin damaged the sport. People who love the sport, like myself, it's hard for us to forgive that. There are other people who have damaged the sport as well, and Justin has been treated differently from those people. Steve mentioned Tyson Gay when he was talking about the lineup either in the semifinals or the finals. He mentioned Tyson Gay, and he said Tyson cooperated with the authorities, and he's come back, and it's true. Justin has not cooperated with the authorities. Justin hasn't shown any contrition. He hasn't given any apology, and he hasn't sought at all to understand why people feel the way they do about him. He hasn't done that. And he hasn't sort of engendered himself to the public and said, hey, I apologize. He has to also understand that the excuse he gave for his second positive test would be difficult for any of us to buy. That it was a disgruntled physiotherapist that gave him a massage with a tainted massage cream, and that's how he ended up testing positive. True or not, he has to understand that would be difficult for us to buy. If he understands that, then he understands that how we feel and that we can't buy that. Now, I saw Justin Gatlin's interview with NBC after the 100 meters, and I felt his pain. He is very hurt. I felt it. I saw it. And now, nobody, and I work for BBC, and I am very in tune to the British public and the British media. And I felt from the very beginning that there's a little bit of a difference here. We're enjoying this storyline of the devil in Justin Gatlin and the hero in Usain Bolt. Gatlin hasn't done anything to dispel that. It was built. Was it built fairly? Maybe not, because he's not the only cheat. You have to remember, and nobody wants to hear what I'm about to say now because it's not part of the narrative. The narrative is Justin is horrible and we want to hate him because he did harm to the sport. I get that. He did harm to my sport. I don't appreciate that. I'm not a Justin Gatlin fan at all. Never have been, actually. But no one knew that Justin Gatlin tested positive before the second test until the second test. So we haven't so the narrative and the story that's put out there is he's a two-time drug cheat. And he's made comments about that I'm always labeled as a two-time drug cheat. The issue there is that the first test, he tested positive before the 2004 Olympics, way before. And when he won the 2004 Olympics, no one said he's a drugs cheat. No one talked about that test because it was for an ADHD drug that he had been taking for 10 years. And it was what we would all consider in the sport a minor infraction, probably wasn't trying to get away with anything. It was your fault because you need to test and see what you're taking and qualify that and get the TUE and all of those sorts of things. But when he tested positive the second time, then all of a sudden everyone just labels the two tests, evenly matched so that the public feels that you tried to get away with it once, you got busted and you were banned, and then you came back and got a second chance and you did it again. And that's how it's positioned. And I think that's what he probably has a problem with. Now, Justin, though, has to understand, and this is all Justin's fault. There is no doubt about that. This is all his fault. He did it. He was responsible. He was given the opportunity to come back into the sport, and he has done nothing, zero, to engender himself back into the public and to get people to understand his situation and to say, hey, look, I'm here. He hasn't even said, I'm against doping in the sport and I want to help do something about it. I want to go around and talk to other athletes and talk to young people about the dangers of using drugs or trusting someone.
He says that he goes into schools, doesn't he, and talks to kids about his mistakes. But perhaps the world that we live in, we need to see that, don't we?
Maybe we need to see that because I haven't seen it. And none of the people who are vilifying him, they haven't seen it either, because what we see is Justin Gatlin very angry. And also, look, he's running really fast. I mean, the more you do, the more that is expected of you, and the more all of your accomplishments and all of your lowlights are going to be highlighted. We have been talking for the whole week about how fast he's running. I'm sitting here talking about, I'm comparing him to Usain Bolt, the best in the world, and I'm talking about how incredible his form and technique is. So we're talking about all of it because he's running really fast, and he has to accept that.